The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is sponsored by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
On this week's show, we have a unique circumstance. We had intended to bring you both party-nominated candidates for the vacant senatorial seat in the 22nd District, a district that includes Lackawanna County as well as parts of Luzerne and Monroe counties. The vacancy occurred when former Senator John Blake resigned to accept a position on the staff of United States Congressman Matt Cartwright. In these situations, there's a special election whereby both parties nominate their ballot representative by a committee vote within each party. Obviously, there's no time for a primary where everybody could run. The nominee chosen by the Republican committee was Lackawanna County Commissioner Chris Chermak, and the Democratic committee nominated a current member of Pennsylvania's House of Representatives, Marty Flynn. Because this is a special election, even though it will appear on the primary ballot on May 18th, all registered voters, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, can vote for the Senate office, unlike other ballot questions whereby voters can only vote in a primary within their own party. Everybody can vote for the Senate race. It had been our intention to bring you both candidates in studio for interviews for this Sunday's show. And while you will hear from Republican nominee Chris Chermak, we will be unable to bring you Democratic nominee Marty Flynn, as he may no longer be the Democratic nominee. In a court challenge hearing before the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania just 2 days ago, on a challenge to Representative Flynn's nomination, the Commonwealth Court heard arguments by two challengers that Representative Flynn had violated election law by filing late as well as materially incomplete ethics forms. There were two party litigants challenging Flynn: Charlie Spano, a former Republican nominee for mayor of the city of Scranton, and retired Colonel Joe Albert, who has been a Republican nominee for this very Senate seat. Due to the uncertainty of Representative Flynn's status, he was precluded from participating on this week's show. But we are happy to bring you Colonel Joe Albert, who was one of the mentioned party litigants and was present for the entirety of the historic court proceeding on Friday, which took all day. This is the first time in 8 years of the Volpe Report that we have advertised a guest for a show who has been unable to appear. This is regrettable, but we are also sure that this is the only television show covering this matter from an eyewitness who is willing to share what took place in court. As Commissioner Chermak was able to appear, we will discuss his background, and he did appear on the show. You'll hear from him today. Chris is a product of Clark Summit and currently resides in Dalton with his wife Casey. They have 4 children and 1 grandson. Chris graduated from Abington Heights High School and then attended Penn State Worthington campus as well as Marywood University, taking business and accounting courses. At the time he was schooling, he was also working as the general manager of Joe Chermak Auto Sales in Clark Summit. Chris was and is very active in the community prior to his election as county commissioner in 2019. He is a member of the Clark Summit Fire Company and has been a first responder as a volunteer with the Ambulance and Rescue Division since 1978. He is a member of the National Ski Patrol at Elk Mountain Ski Resort, a certified BLS and CPR instructor for the American Heart Association. Chris also was in the past a past member and planning member of the Clark Summit Planning Commission. We are happy to be able to bring you a show today that has a tinge of controversy, and we are bringing you an eyewitness to what took place in Commonwealth Court this past Friday.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Joe, welcome as a special guest to the Volpe Report.
Thank you, Chuck. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure. I think for our audience's benefit, you are a retired lieutenant colonel of the United States Army, and around Veterans Day that occurs in November every year, you come on the show, not actually on the Volpe Report, but we run a piece. You do a little advertisement for the parade that takes place in downtown Scranton for veterans. Before we get to your actual reason for your appearance today, and I'll state right up front, you were one of 2 party litigants that actually challenged in court the nomination of Marty Flynn, who was the Democratic representative from the 113th Legislative District. But for purposes of this show, he has recently, by the Democratic Committee, been nominated to represent the Democratic Party in the special election on May 18th to fill Senator John Blake's seat. Correct. So he was all scheduled to go ahead and take on Republican nominee, County Commissioner Chris Chermak. And while this is going on, and it's assumed they'll both be on the ballot, you, along with former Republican candidate for mayor of the city of Scranton recently, Charlie Spano, filed challenges to the petitions of Marty Flynn that he had made material omissions in some of what he stated, as well as the fact that he filed late, that he didn't sign them, a number of legal challenges. So talk a little bit about what motivated you to do that.
Very simply, because people in political and high elected standards of public office have a higher standard than the rest of the community with regard to ethics, integrity, and transparency. And in this particular case, Mr. Flynn failed in all 3 areas. He filed his petitions, his official forms, his declarations, his ethics statements late. In one case, the first time, he didn't even sign it. He had his campaign manager, a 26-year-old from Annapolis, Maryland, who doesn't even live in Pennsylvania, file official papers for a candidacy in Harrisburg. He didn't file the same papers with the Ethics Commission that he was supposed to file with the State Department. He left out material information that the public is entitled to know.
A little bit of background, because there could be people out there watching this show and say, well, why should we listen to Joe Albert? He's a Republican and just has an axe to grind and filed a challenge, and this is just politically motivated. I think your resume, which is impressive to say the least, speaks a lot to who you are as a person, the accomplishments and success, the fate that our country has bestowed upon you. I think is relevant to that you're not just some political, for example, you had run for Senate in the as a Republican nominee in the 22nd District and lost to John Blake in a general election. But so you can, whatever you say can be put off as sour grapes, and you said you felt an obligation as a citizen. Well, I think our viewers should know exactly what that entails. So let's start with the fact that you were a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army.
Correct.
Not in the reserves, in the full-time Army. You achieved a status to be a part of the staff of the Joint Chiefs, which there's no higher group protecting the interests of our country than the Joint Chiefs of Staff of this country, which means you were at the Pentagon.
Correct.
And actually, and I'll let you tell the story, had played a role in the planning of Desert Storm.
Correct.
In that, so talk a little bit about how you got involved in that. I think our viewers would want to know.
Well, it's fair. One of the things I learned after being at the Pentagon with the Joint Chiefs is that during, as anyone that's been in the service knows, you have an opportunity to put in where you want to go, what unit you want to serve with. How I ended up there, I'm not really sure. I was working in my business in Scranton in the insurance business, and I was recalled to active duty. When I got my orders, I was told to report to the Pentagon. When I got to the Pentagon, I found out I was going to join the Joint Chiefs, the Joint Staff, and the area I was supposed to serve in was what's called J5, which is Strategy and Policy, which makes the strategy and policy for the country from the military standpoint. And the area that I was assigned to in strategy and policy was an area called the Middle East, Africa, Persian Gulf, United Nations. I had really no idea what I was going there for and what I was doing, and I found out that I was assigned to a select team. There were about 12 of us, and we designed Desert Storm, Operation Desert Storm. Wow. And that's how the United States won the first Gulf War.
Wow. What was your rank when you were recalled to active duty?
I was lieutenant colonel.
At that point, so you went in
Yes.
as a lieutenant colonel. Well, that kind of explains your high placement then. So our viewers understand you weren't a corporal or a sergeant and ended up in Washington.
No.
That you were already a lieutenant colonel and then got called back to active duty. Well, at any rate, let's fast forward. Now that the audience has heard your impressive credentials and you're not just a disgruntled political observer, tell us what took place today in court. It's kind of historical. But
it was very interesting and fascinating. It was a virtual hearing held before a judge of the Commonwealth Court, which is, people may not understand, it is the appellate court for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
There are two, actually. They do know from me.
Okay.
I actually served on the Superior Court of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Now, the way it works is you have the district justice level, then you have the trial courts, courts of common pleas, then you go above that to the intermediate appellate level. A lot of civil and criminal matters, all criminal matters, go to the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, where I was a clerk. And then any matters involving the government, local governments, or state government goes to Commonwealth Court. Obviously, interpretation of election laws and elections would go to Commonwealth Court. That's how they have jurisdiction.
And above Commonwealth Court, of
Supreme.
course, is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court,
Right.
which is the highest court in the Commonwealth.
Right, correct.
This court, this case went to Commonwealth Court. It was a hearing. Mr. Flynn was represented by his counsel as well as counsel for the State Democratic Party, and we were represented by our attorney. And we did not, Mr. Spano also attended the hearing virtually.
Right.
There were, I think, 12 of us in the room, including the judge, a recorder, and the court staff. And what happened was that the lawyers basically interrogated the witnesses, and there were really only two, Mr. Flynn and his campaign manager. And when they started, the issue was whether or not the filings were appropriate and on time. They were not on both cases. It appears that Mr. Flynn, when he filed his first ethics report, never signed it. His campaign manager signed it, which is a violation of the law. He failed to disclose certain interests. He refiled again and did not file the proper forms the right way the second time. He did it a third time. He still left out information. He did not do what the state ethics law is required to do for a candidate for public office. Again today, during the hearing, he filed another amended report prior to the hearing. The hearing had a lunch break, a recess that counsel for the defense requested, during which time he filed another ethics report. After the hearing, he was filing another report.
And if I can, Joe, break in now, what were the reasons he kept amending? So in other words, if I'm understanding you, he failed to disclose certain financial interests he had. Is that why he had to keep refiling? Is that the case?
Well, that was with his primary, his preliminary report that's required every year by members of the legislature. He left out pertinent facts, including financial interest.
For instance?
For example, he failed to report mortgages. Who owns the mortgage, the interest rate, and where the properties were located. In fact, in 2 instances, he never revealed properties that he owned.
Rental income type
rental
situation?
Income. He failed to report, this is interesting, Chuck. Several years ago, as you know, legislators are required every year to file these financial disclosure forms.
Of course.
And I believe sign an ethics declaration that they swear the truth and what they filed is legitimate. In prior years, he listed certain assets that he had, including a 2006 Corvette and I believe it was a 2018 or 19 Lincoln that he had a $30,000 loan on. And he reported it several years ago, but he didn't report it on his current forms. He did not report income and properties that he owned on current forms. Where he did several years ago, he left it out. And as a result, he didn't show the transparency or the integrity that one would expect of our elected officials.
Now, we did not get a ruling on that today. How did the judge of the Commonwealth Court leave it? What's next to come?
The next to come is both counsels file their final briefs by Monday morning. The court will take it under advisement, and the judge said that there will be decision sometime next week.
Okay. Yeah, I thought they would end up expediting it. So we're at a point, of course, this is Sunday, the show is airing.
Right.
We're actually in studio the Friday. 2 days from now is when the show will actually air. I've already done Chris Chermak. I've had to explain to our audience, we actually advertised the show that they're not getting. Marty Flynn was supposed to be sitting in that chair. Right now, he's going to have a tough time getting himself on the ballot from what you've explained happened in court today.
I believe so, and what will happen most likely is after the judge enters their court's decision, there'll be probably an immediate appeal to the state Supreme Court.
I would expect that's the case. Well, you came out here on late notice, Joe. I appreciate it. You have been a friend of the show through the years and of me personally, so I thank you for coming. And look, you were an eyewitness to what took place. You're a party litigant. You're one of the parties that filed the challenge. And for our viewers to be able to hear firsthand what took place is appreciated by me. So
thank you.
Thank you again.
Every week, Chuck Volpe shares his perspective on Pennsylvania issues in the news and on your mind. From new laws being introduced in Harrisburg and Washington, to government spending and even local controversies, hear how they affect us in Northeast and Central Pennsylvania. Catch Volpe's views every Tuesday on the Fox 56 News, first at 10.
Chris, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Thanks for the invitation.
You have been a guest on this show already. It was as County Commissioner-elect, that being County Commissioner of Lackawanna County, where you were elected a commissioner, your first stint in public office. And now, of course, you're the Republican-nominated candidate in the special election for the senator of the 22nd Senatorial District. And, of course, you now, as a midterm commissioner, decided to throw your hat in the ring and were nominated by your party to represent the Republican Party. So let's go by way of backgrounds. I'm sure our viewers remember your introduction, which is now almost 2 years ago, but kind of remind them of your family, your background, and what led you into public service.
What got me into looking at why did I want to run for county commissioner? You know, I'm as a business, my family business, and being involved, you know, I saw from the level from the commissioners, they were fighting, they didn't like each other, one suing another one. I mean, it was ridiculous, and it was very unprofessional. And I thought, all right, well, I can't stand this anymore. What am I going to do? Do I move away? Do I get involved, or do I just ignore it? Well, I chose to get involved. And I thought, I need somebody to get in there, and maybe it was me, to try to make it a little more professional and do the right thing and get the job done. So that's what got me interested. I got out. I campaigned for 3.5 years. I won the election as the minority commissioner. I get in, you know, and we get along well. The people that work for the Lackawanna County are some of the best people I've ever met. Hardworking, good people. I love it. I love my job. But it's frustrating. You know, I'm a minority commissioner. And even though we get along, and we get along fine, and we do good things, and we'll talk about 2020, but I still, my hands are tied. There's a lot of things that I'd like to do and that I've recommended, and I just can't do it. You know,
that's
I'm
because 2 votes beat 1 vote.
2 to 1. 2 to 1. And but here we go. I get elected. I get sworn in on January 6th. Just get rolling. And March, well, the beginning of March, we start seeing a pandemic coming our way, and next thing you know, boom, we're shut down. What do you do? There's no rule books. There's no guide. You know, even though we had we have plans in place for catastrophic events and stuff like that, but you're never really prepared, especially for this. This was something that I've never seen. So
no one's ever seen.
No, but you know, in hindsight, as we moved through, you know, we protected the employees of the county. We started separating different offices and staggering people coming in. We did a good job. You know, our chief of staff did a great job. Everybody pitched in, and you know, we kept our buildings safe. We kept the prisons safe. You know, we did the things that we needed to do. So we did work together, and we were successful. I mean, did we do things wrong? Well, probably, but you know, it was kind of learn as you go.
Not that I saw, as you know, I pay attention,
well,
and you
know,
did about as well as you're in an unprecedented pandemic, and you were kind of like making it up as you go, following CDC guidelines and the like, of course, but nonetheless, it was kind of an experiment for everybody. We had to do it as a business owner myself. We had to do it with multiple, you know, we have many employees, so
it was.
Yeah, it was a tough thing to navigate.
So we're in the middle of this. First thing happens, okay, we have, you know, we're watching the CDC, we're listening to what's going on. We got to flatten the curve. We got to flatten the curve. Meanwhile, people in nursing homes are dying. We're not protecting the elderly and the most vulnerable people. But what they're focused.
Well, I blamed our governor for that. Just so you know.
So the governor says we're going to shut the businesses down. We got to flatten the curve. Okay, it'll take 14 days, I think it was. Well, I don't know, but 14 days is not 6-8 months. And so here's me as my family business, you know, which we work hard every day. We're there. We can't sell a car. You got to shut down. Can't have anybody in the showroom. Can't have anybody on the car lot. Well, we're small. There might be one person there maybe at a time, two if we're lucky.
You mean while Lowe's and Targets and Home Depot and Wegmans and Walmart and every other big box store that helped bankrupt most of Pennsylvania's small business state operation.
You can go, obviously you have to go buy food and medication, stuff like that. But you could go in and buy patio furniture because Walmart's open. Okay, well, didn't work for me. But like I said, they shut our business down. They shut all the businesses down. Restaurants, you couldn't get your hair cut. I mean, just the list goes on and on. Travel agents, I mean, everybody was going bankrupt, struggling, and I'm getting phone calls. You know, fight the governor. You got to go against the governor. You got to let us open. Well, it's just not that easy. Right. You know, the governor's dangling the carrot in front of you, millions and millions of COVID relief money that if you go against me, I'm not going to give it to you. Right. So so I said, time out, folks, time out. So meanwhile, Governor Wolf is shutting business down. Our representatives are backing him 100%, signing for everything he wants to do, threatening—
including your opponent, Democrat Marty Flynn.
Yeah, threatening to beat up business owners if they defy what the governor wants and they're going to boycott their business. I mean, it was insane. But I said, look at, I got all the businesses together. I have a good friend that was like the spokesperson. We had, I don't even know, maybe 50 businesses. I said, here's what we're going to do. Get me your action plans. Tell me how your business, how you can operate safely, how you can follow the guidelines, how you can survive in this climate respectfully and protecting your employees and protecting your customers. That's what I want. We're going to take these, we're going to compile all the information, and I'm going to get it to the governor's office. Well, I'm still waiting on the answer on that, but by the way, so we did, but we got it, and I said, you know, my comments and my thing was for the governor is let us decide who. Let the county commissioners make the decision locally. Don't just, it's not a one size fits all here.
Of course not.
And we never had that opportunity.
Well, Chris, let me interject. While I was on this show every week, really kicking hell out of them, every single week on this show, bringing guests in to professionals and experts to do the same thing, while all these small businesses were put into bankruptcy and all the bars and restaurants were devastated, they're either in foreclosure, they're in bankruptcy. While all this is going on, of course, the big box stores are thriving. And again, the unfairness. Let me give you a quick example. 4th of July comes along. We have a major manufacturer in Pennsylvania, we did a show on this, who produces American flags, made in America by American union workers. were shut down by the governor. But you can go to Walmart's or Lowe's or a place like that, and for your 4th of July picnic, buy flags from the big box stores. Those flags were made in China.
Right, exactly. Well, it makes no sense. It made no sense at all. You know, obviously, probably those companies could outspend the governor, and if they went to court, so whatever. But my business, we certainly could not do that. So
well, let me ask
down.
you this. So this kind of is a natural segue. You decided, obviously, to run for Senate. You had to proceed and procure a nomination. Mm-hmm. You had to submit your name to the Republican committee. The Republican committee chose you to be their representative. You're on May's ballot. So let's get, cutting to the chase. Why do you want to be senator, and what would you have done different, as you mentioned, that your opponent, Democratic Representative Marty Flynn, and the other Democratic legislators pretty much gave their proxies to the governor? And so but why do you want to be a senator, and what could you do?
Well, first of all, I'm honored to represent the party. And they came looking for me. And I didn't make a quick decision because, it's a big decision. But I started thinking about things, talking to my wife and my family, and it's very simple. I'm sitting on my hands. My hands are tied. I can't do things I want to do. I'm one person against the machine. As a senator, I have an opportunity to do good things for this region with the backing of a majority Senate. I have, 26, I'm not counting myself, but 26, 27, 28 senators.
I think the vote right now, I think it's 29-21.
So, right. So,
well, actually, one of the I'm counting is that 29 is Senator John Udicek, who sits in Republican leadership, but as a registered independent.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, after the election, so I'll be there with a majority Senate. I'll have the backs of all these folks. And matter of fact, they've all called me. I talk to them all the time. They're all rooting for me and really, really very supportive. So I can tell you already, there's no way Marty Flynn is going to have that support. He can't, his hands are going to be tied like mine are tied at the county level. So that's something that only I'm going to be able to do. I'm going to be the guy that can help this region and do good things for this region, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. It's not for my ego. I don't need to do this. I want to do it. I think it's an opportunity, and it's an honor to do it. Right. So I'm privileged.
And as we run down to our last minute or two, you've given a great statement as to why you want to be a senator, what you see as having gone wrong this past year. So you're going to have to distinguish and compare and contrast yourself and Marty Flynn. So again, in a minute or so, like, why you, not him?
Why me? Well, first of all, to me, this has nothing to do with Marty Flynn. This has to do with me and northeastern Pennsylvania. Like I said, I'm going to have the support of a majority Senate. That's going to give me the ability to do the things that need to be done here. It's very simple. I have the support. He's not going to have it. I mean, that's the reason. Right. It's not me, but it's the position and what I can do as the senator.
And clearly, I've seen your television commercials. You're already up on television. I know that you do have the strong backing of the Republican leadership. President Pro Tem Jay Corman, who's been on this show, the Senate leader, Republican leader in the Senate, is a big fan of yours in your campaign. I know he's coming up here to help, generate support and raise money for you. So, yeah.
But that's it. I want people to realize this is for the region. I know we can do good things, and the voters have to realize that. You got to get out and vote. All voters can come out. This is not a primary. This is the general election. It's a special election. So Democrats, Independents, and Republicans can all vote. And I'm asking for their support. I mean, this is important for our region.
No question.
This will be historical, and this is a game changer for our area, and I feel that way.
Well, you're a great candidate. I wish you a lot of luck. Again, we're here with senatorial candidate, incumbent Lackawanna County Commissioner, Republican nominee Chris Chermak, and that special election will be on the ballot, and both sides can vote for that election, even though it's a primary, because it's a special election on May the 18th. Thank you, and we'll be back next Sunday with another show.